Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyber Insanity. We're starting out a new series, the Demystifying Series. So I'm your host, Andrew Bracuda.
And I'm Angelo Longo.
Well, today, what we want to demystify for you in this short amount of time we have is artificial intelligence. What is AI? So let's kind of go through a definition real quick, and I'll give a very light upper level definition, and Angelo will fill in the blanks for us as far as where that is matured to. Artificial intelligence really is really a misnomer to many degrees. It really is like a large database. They call it a large learning model. And basically, that's a big database of questions or technology or things, intellectual capital that people capture to a computer. And the computer goes through predictability decision tree. So what that means is this. Every question that you answer, every answer that was successfully done builds out, did it answer your question? Did it not answer your question? And all of those things are teamed up with probability. That's that math stuff that we wanted to get rid of in our college or high school. We passed the test, but we go, I don't want to do that again. Well, somebody's doing it. And that probability basically matched with the predictability gives you a more reasonable answer quicker. Meaning, if I ask a question, the probability that 500, 1,000, 500,000 people ask the same question the same way, and the answer is always going to be the same. So with high probability, this is your answer. And this is kind of what artificial intelligence really does for us, right? It doesn't reason, it doesn't think. That technology is not available. It's not that Skynet thing, but there's more to it. But in essence, it helps us get to a decision quicker because it's been asked before, and they build off of this data that you feed into it. Angelo, flesh that out for us a little bit more.
Okay. So we talked about that little piece there, that AI functionality. Where does it exist? What does it happen? What's going on with it? We talk about data. Data is the lifeblood of the AI construct. It is what feeds it. It needs data to provide more information. It uses decisions and conversations that you've had, other people have had and made with the we'll call it an entity, call it the device, call it a solution. That's probably a better choice. And basically regurgitate in some way the pieces of the puzzle that allow you as an organization, as a person, to answer a question. Maybe. Not all answers are correct. Not all answers are good. Um, and some answers are curated and even censored, just to be clear. They may not answer certain questions. They may say it's against their policies. But one place you typically see these things is in voice assistants. You see an interface on the back end when you ask Siri, when you ask Google, when you ask Alexa, when you ask any of these voice assistants for an answer. There's typically some processing going on in the background, and it goes to a database and looks up the answer and provides you a response. What's happening in AI is getting better at churning that data. It's getting better at identifying the nuances in that data. It's getting better at being able to regurgitate that data back to you in a way which is meaningful. But they it does have what are called hallucinations, meaning sometimes it gets it wrong. And when it gets it wrong, what's going to happen is it's going to fail the checks. And when it fails the checks, we end up falling down on regard to the veracity of that data, the truthfulness, that data doesn't really give what it's supposed to do. So what happens from there? You need to make a decision whether or not this what you're putting in is good. Practical example: your daughter didn't get her homework done. There's a topic on whatever. You decide I'm going to use chat an AI construct of whatever it is. You put it in there. I need to figure out everything I need to know on Teddy Roosevelt. And it comes back with this great paragraph and everything and a story and everything, but you may be reading it and you go, I don't remember that about Teddy Roosevelt. I don't remember that portion there. And then you start looking at it, and what you find out, it regurgitated something that may have been a part of a fictional book. It regurgitated something that may have derived together from two different subjects. So you need to watch the response. But the biggest thing about this is typically what the things that we're interacting with are not really trying to do things for a purposeful manner. They're more of a general um, a response and question and response thing. When you start getting into specific things like medical diagnoses, it's more of a decision tree. If blood type something and heart rate X and um, pathogen Y, then this. So that decision tree is what doctors learn when they go to school and have books and reference. But if you stick that into a computer, which can instantly diagnose based upon XYZ facts, you end up being able to get to the root cause of something, or maybe at least testable root causes much quicker. And I think that's critical. But the important point here is remember, all this speed comes with a cost, and that cost could be a mistake. And so when we look at some of these features and functions, and I just gave you my medical diagnoses, I'm just a little bit reticent to wholly rely on a computer model, which, by just so you know, was probably built and created by somebody like me based upon information that was in a book. And if I mistype something, Andrew, what happens?
Well, we get to the mistake quicker.
Yes, very much so.
So that raises an interesting point, right? I mean, it's not, or it should not be the thing that thinks for us.
No,
Uh, that it's not meant to reason. It's not meant to think for us. It's meant to provide us potential options or answers that we may have overlooked based on common repeated repeated diagnosis or
right.
answers. So there's a lot of talk of AI, right? I mean, we're seeing that everywhere. I think pretty soon our menus are going to have AI. You go to a car wash, it's powered by AI. You go to a doctor's office now, the day that's powered by AI, or you go to somewhere, everything's powered by AI. Even a battery says powered by AI. I don't know. It's almost overused. But
It's
where
abused. It's a marketing term.
it's a great marketing term, right? Artificial intelligence, again, remember, it's a big database. But
And
where
remember,
does
if
it get this data?
and there's one side point, and I'm going to answer that. If the website ends in AI, it doesn't mean it's an AI. Just click here. You can buy the website right now and say, you know, Angelo.ai. So,
Uh,
um,
okay.
but where does it get this data? It
Yeah.
gets the data from digitized books and input from you and me, stuff you upload to the AI model. That stuff is parsed and reviewed and understood. There's public domain stuff that's like library stuff, and then there's private stuff, which is private information, corporate information, government information that may end up in the whatever the storage location is for the AI. The reason I say whatever is no one's sitting down there and saying it's this little machine here has all your information on it. It's it sits in a cloud-based infrastructure which sits in somebody else's data center. Data center for is just a bunch of computers sitting in a big warehouse.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so
Now here's where the rubber hits the road, right? Because after all, we are talking about cybersecurity ultimately. I have to flip a switch here. If it's getting data, and I see a lot of companies saying we're going to an AI model, we're embracing it, we want to incorporate AI. That's good to a point, but there's
yep,
also a danger of having AI unchecked to gather data from places that should be private. Is there not?
No, yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, listen, whatever you put in AI, upload everything, it kind of eats it and keeps it. You don't know what, you don't know where you don't even know if it's going to reference and tell somebody else about it. So let me give you an example.
Mhm.
You go up, you have a corporate meeting and you need to get a report done, and you know AI is going to help you get that report done, build a PowerPoint or whatever, and boom, regurgitate something out, and then you can tweak it and make it all perfect. And then you go present it, and you hit it out of the park, blah blah blah. And the corporate numbers for this quarter, or you're showing how great we did and everything, and this is awesome. Until your competitor talks to the same AI and asks a question about you. How did they do last quarter? What happened?
Uh-oh.
Does the AI have some type of constraint that it doesn't tell them that? Or in some cases, which we have found, does it relay that information to them? Now your competitor knows, oh, they just sold to one of our customers, or they just sold to, they just beat us out this quarter because they did this tactic or whatever. Now your information isn't constrained to this lovely, private network of yours in your organization. It now is public.
So that really blurs the lines of privacy now, because you have to, it all depends who you're doing business with as far as an AI provider or large learning model provider, where their
Mm-hmm.
data centers are and everything. If they're gobbling up the data,
Yep.
there has to be ways of putting constraints or limiting their visibility where they can gather the data from. Because let's say you're a hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to use your triage center as a great you want to customize your diagnosis tool,
Right.
right, for your doctors in the ER. Now, all of a sudden, if I'm saying, hey, we have a better um, capture rate than the other hospitals around the surrounding areas, our emergency room is a little bit better. I'm going to capture that into AI and help us even be better than that.
Right.
That's a noble goal. But what you're saying is, if you're not careful with the AI, it can digest private information about your patients, your patient care, maybe certain things that you did not want to capture in the AI.
Absolutely. So constraints. Uh, you may have heard of Office 365 or Microsoft 365. They
Mhm.
have something called Copilot.
Yeah.
Just so you know what this is ChatGPT within the system they call Office 365. And what does that mean to you? Well, it should mean, by virtue of the fact of what Microsoft said, there are boundaries put in that bind that ChatGPT to your instance. In other words, whatever domain.com where you send email, save your files, all that, it should only stay there and only the people in there should be able to read it. Caveat: HR uploads everybody's salary to a share. I forgot to say don't read that share to to the Copilot. What happens? Well, Joe User over here goes in and says, "What does everybody make?" And ChatGPT, or I should say, Copilot, trying to be helpful, just spits it back out. This is what everybody makes because it's being helpful.
Uh-oh.
Um, it doesn't have the constraints to say that maybe I shouldn't. And let's be clear. As these pain points get more and more over time, you will see them get better. But the caveat is you need to put boundaries on them. You need to start with the boundaries and then allow it to see stuff. But you also need to instruct your employees to say, hey, don't put anything outside of here that's sensitive or we don't want to be shared with the organization. Lastly, one point is there is a functional piece that we can get into, which goes and you can build your own AI infrastructure in your own organization and build your own constraints so it doesn't share with everybody. That is sort of like doing it on your own and having your own system like that. The important part about this is you need to know what it's reading and you need to know where it stores it. Both of those mean you need to either restrain what you put into it and or put boundaries of where it can look. So
So one last question as we wrap this up, because one can get an impression that this is the Wild West and we're the guinea pig,
yes.
right? There is some truth in that, but there is some things that you can do, like reading the user agreement for the company or provider for your AI service, to find out, I guess, what they're doing with the data, how they're sharing the data. But I think there's also the other one is, do we rely on that provider to tell us what those traffic cones are where you can't cross for an AI? So don't read that shared drive with the HR salaries. Are we relying on them to do this, or are they saying, nah, that's on you? What are you seeing?
So let's just take Office 365.
Yeah.
It's really on you, the consumer, to see those boundaries. You need to actually provide the boundaries and say, don't look here. So it's on you to make that happen. The provider's not going to do that. They have the places to do it, but they're not going to do it for you. In the Wild West that is the internet, your user grabs your financial report and uploads it to Office or to ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or whatever. Well, that just eats it and looks at it, and there are some things where you can say it's temporary and stuff like that, and you're in as a thing. But the issue at hand is it. You have to assume it is now public knowledge. You have to assume it is now out there for everybody to see. So if you take that into account, that important fact needs to be needs to be driven home to all your people, all the people you work for, your kids, your 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 spouse, your employees, whatever, need to know whatever you stick up in there, you should assume it's publicly available when you put it into something like that. And if you
Wow.
make that assumption, you need to think of how you're going to share with that thing, what you're going to do, and it probably comes down to what would you put in an email to if you had to speak to a competitor or law enforcement or something like that, would you be just putting everything in an email, or would you want to do it via like an actual personal handoff if it's sensitive information, over a phone or something like that? You need to start thinking about how you share information.
Wow. And with that bombshell, as they say in certain show, we really come down to the end of our time to hopefully demystify the AI, um, mystique, right? It's not that complex, but it is voracious in its appetite for data. And I think there are some things to do. If you're not familiar with AI, certainly there are people that do know AI. We certainly at Goliath have our executive services that can help coach you through some of this journey. There's also things that you can do to protect your data. Tokenization is one of those, and that's going to be, I think, on our next demystifying show is going to be talking about tokenization and how that can protect your data from even AI scrounging out that data and trying to put it out there. But um, it's not a fearful tool if you know how to use it, and I think that's the takeaway here is it can be useful. It can help you get to the answer quicker, but it's a probability model. It's based on a higher probability, but it's not perfect. And I think we're a long way from that thing being perfect. And Angelo, thank you so much for demystifying the AI for us. And with that, what are some of the things that we like to say is our favorite phrases?
Mine is excuse me. Well, I'm losing my mind. Complexity is the enemy of security. And if you can't explain it, you're probably not secure. But I want to add communication is the key to success in relationship and knowledge sharing. But when it comes to AI, be very careful what you communicate and share.
There's one that I always go with, but I'm going to change this for this particular one. And it's something that I've been saying when we started with back in the Wizards, and we started answering questions without thinking through stuff. And one of these sayings is, you can make things idiot proof, but you make a smarter idiot. So
Mhm.
let's keep our thinking hats on. Let's make sure that we don't turn into the robots that the AI drives.
Love it.
With that, have a great time, and hope you catch us on the next episode. Thank you all for joining.
See y'all.